On tonight's episode, I'm joined by J.J. Brown, bassist of the 1990s metal band Fight, which of course featured the legendary frontman, the metal goblin himself, Rob Halford. So J.J. joins us today because we're going to celebrate the 30th anniversary of the War of Words album, which is a killer one. But we also want to hear from him about what's going on in 2023. He's a thriving tattoo artist. He's a thriving painter. And he's got the reunion of one of his bands, S.I.L. So JJ, welcome to Metal Mayhem ROC.
Thanks, Walt. How you doing, sir?
I am good, man. So it's starting to get cold in Jersey. I did the family thing last night with my wife and kids. We went to one of those Thrasher Halloween places, and I brought out my beanie hat that says "Has a Killer Day." And here you go, bring it on. Look at what is this visual you got going on here?
I'm getting ready for the S.I.L show and the PAC 666 show. This is my PAC 666 get up. My
Awesome.
made in Detroit beanie here.
That's pretty cool. So, I mean, we're going to go back in history, and we're going to talk a lot about the Fight days, of course, but we want to talk about, what have you been doing since those Fight days? So talk a little bit about the band. Do you have an upcoming show, a reunion show? Is it down in Arizona, I see?
Yeah, I just got back from Arizona. Came back from 100-degree weather to 50-degree weather up here in Ohio. Big difference. S.I.L. It's Satanic Industries Limited. It was a band that I had around the same time as Fight. We released a couple CDs, and we hadn't played together since probably early 2000. And I was going through some video stuff and digitizing it because I have a whole box of videos of stuff. And I sent some stuff to them, and they're like, man, we should do a reunion show. And I was like, I mean, if you're all up for it, yeah, let's do it.
So who's all in the band? And what I think is kind of cool, you got this show coming up down in a venue in Mesa, Arizona, and it's a bring your own beer venue. Like, talk about that, man.
It's our buddy's Mike's place. It's like a rehearsal room, but it's set up really cool. It looks like something like Rob Zombie would design the interior of the place. It's got a really cool vibe, and we just thought, we wanted to do something a little bit smaller, more personal. So we really haven't even really like promoted the show. It's more of a word of mouth, smaller deal because it's a smaller place. And it's just something for us to get together and jam again, because it's been over 25 years.
So 25 years since you guys have done a show. I mean, for those that don't know the kind of music, like describe what kind of music is it?
It's like metal music with, some samples in it, a little bit of keys. My guitar player, Kristen, he's been in like Gray Days. He's in Gray Days. He was in he was in a bunch of other bands too, and then he's also in PAC 666 with me also. And then Rich, the drummer, he's in a bunch of different bands, and Goody, the other guitarist, is mostly known for his sound engineering. He's been out with Hatebreed and Hell Yeah, and a whole slew of people running sound for them. And he said he'd never even pick up his guitar again and do music. So I was really surprised when he said that he was up for it. I figured, what the hell? I guess I could do it too. So I've been flying back and forth, and we've been going over the stuff, and we just had our second rehearsal, and it's not bad for that long a time.
That's pretty awesome. So because your roots, I think maybe were in Arizona, but you live up in Ohio. I see it. Is that where you are? Wow.
Yeah.
So flying down to do gig rehearsals, man, that's impressive.
You got to do what you love. You only got one life to live, man, and it's a short one. So, if you're going to do something, do it.
That's awesome. So, well, JJ, best of luck with those shows. We'll look forward to hearing all about them. But talk a little bit about your thriving art career, right? So you have a tattoo shop, correct? Is it called Permanent Skin Artistry?
Yep, that's what it's called. My mom started the shop back in 2000, it was just a piercing shop. And then like after my stepdad had passed, I had moved back up here to Ohio to kind of help her out with the shop, and we brought tattooing into it. And yeah, it's just been kind of a growing thing. I've been in and out of it. Sometimes I walk away from it. I get bored with stuff and I move on, just like with my painting. I'll paint for a little while and move on to something else. I'll record stuff for months and I won't record stuff for months, more. Just go with whatever you feel.
That's it. So you've I mean, it was funny a few weeks ago when you and I connected and we were setting up this discussion. I happened to be over. I was on a plane. I was going on a work trip to Europe, and I had brought the Rob Halford book with me, Biblical, and I hadn't finished it. And I was towards the back end of it, and I'm reading it on the plane, and sure enough, there's a part that comes up about tattoos. And sure enough, there's a half a page where he describes the first time he got inked, and come to find out, you did a lot of work for him. So, talk about that whole experience of inking up the metal god.
Yeah, I moved down to Arizona with my band Cyanide, back in the early, like probably around 90. And I was working at a shop out there, Artistic Skin Design. Well, it just happened that that was the shop that Rob was getting all of his work at, living in Phoenix. And he happened to see my portfolio, dug my work, and I became his regular tattooist. And he brought in Sebastian Bach, he brought in the Pantera guys. I tattooed all of them. Kerry King was with them. And then when Kerry decided to get some work, he came to me. We did a bunch of work on his head. We did that tribal down his arm. The God Hates Us All. I did him and Aisha's wedding bands. And then I end up designing all his guitars for him. And then designed some Slayer shirts. They even made a blacklight poster out of one of my designs.
Wow, that's yeah. So talk about that experience. Like was Rob like this the first time he got inked, like on his chest or his legs, or like had you guys already been in the band together, or was this even before
no.
Fight was put together?
Yeah, this was before Fight was put together.
Wow. So you got introduced to him because, of course, he lives down in Arizona, or he has a place down there, right?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yep. Oh yeah. Yeah. Rob's been down there for quite a while. He loves it down in Arizona.
Yeah. And about these Slayer guitars, because you feature some great images on your Facebook page of the work you've done on Kerry King's guitar, and you've also done some work on them. So talk about the work you've done on this. Are these guitars that were, let's say, used on stage, or are these like more for his personal collection? Like, what's going on with these?
No, that's the BC Rich line, the signature series of his. They sell those. They've been selling those for, geez, probably over 10 years or so. Yeah, those are cool. I was surprised when he decided to leave BC Rich and go to Dean. Yeah, I'm gonna miss him using those.
Yeah. And how does that work? I mean, being an artist, like, does somebody like Kerry come to you and say, "Hey, JJ, you know what? You do great work on tattoo work, and I see that you're a painter, and I got this line of guitars, and I got this image in my head or a vision of what I want," or does he just kind of give you free reign to say, "You know what? Have a go at it"?
No, we talk about stuff, and I'll send him rough drafts, and we'll go back and forth. I mean, we've been friends since we met, back early when I was tattooing the Pantera guys, and me and Kerry would go hang out at TGI Fridays, and drink at the bar there in Phoenix when he lived out there, because he was out there for quite a while too. When I lived out there.
I'm just curious. I'm thinking about this. I was when Sabbath did their reunion tour, they played the Bank One ballpark in Phoenix, Arizona. I think it was New Year's Eve, 98 or 99. I flew down from Jersey for that show. And that was great because that was the first time Sabbath had hit the soil again with Bill Ward. And you had Pantera and Slayer, and I think it was Soulfly and Megadeth opening that show. So,
Oh wow,
yeah, maybe you
that's
were at that
killer.
show, but that was a killer one that night.
Oh, I could only imagine. That's a killer lineup there.
Yeah, it was like flying from Jersey through Chicago in the snow and the cold and down to Arizona for New Year's Eve and having pina coladas down in Mesa or wherever it was, the University of Arizona college town, and going to a show and then flying back to the cold. But JJ, I see that you've done some other work too, and I observed that Anthony Esposito must be another one of your friends or clients. Anthony is probably most well known for his time with Lynch Mob, but you've done some artwork for him, but it's also tied into some of the work you've done on his skin. So talk a little bit about that artwork.
I met Anthony when he lived down in Phoenix too, and we've been friends since then. I did a bunch of tarot cards on him that were Salvador Dali tarot cards, and and then he asked me to do those three paintings right there for his house, and yeah, I was excited to do that. You know, especially to do some Salvador Dali stuff and to
So
do stuff that I tattooed on him over 20 years ago too was cool. You know,
so these exact images are also on his body.
all except for the death card. The death card, we actually did the Salvador Dali one. That's not the Salvador Dali one,
Okay.
but he wanted that one because I think it matched better with the other two pictures.
Wow.
Yeah,
That's
he just stopped by the shop just like right before I left for Arizona. He stopped by the shop. He was driving back from Chicago, and he hadn't seen the paintings yet. And he stopped in there, and he was like, "Holy shit! Like those are fucking awesome, man." I'm like, "Are you taking them with you?" He's all, "Yeah." So he got to take them that night. He was super excited. I was excited too, you know, because I've been working on it for probably almost a year, you know.
Okay. Okay. That's pretty awesome. And I gotta say, well, maybe it's a question because you are a tattoo artist, you're doing these awesome paintings. Like, how do you work it in? Is it, like when you come home at night after you're doing your tattoo day, you just get behind the canvas and you start painting away? Because I'm not gonna lie, man, when you put the picture out there of the four guys in Kiss, I mean, that thing it's fucking awesome, man. I'm not going to lie. Now, do you keep that? Do you sell that? Do you hang it up in your shop? What goes on with these requests?
You know, I just sold that piece, and that was really actually like the first piece that I really sold. And I actually used that cash towards uh, me going back and forth down to Phoenix for rehearsal, or I would have kept it because that was a nice painting.
Oh, you see the picture of Gene, man, and it's just like the blood coming out. Now, was that off of a particular, let's say, period of time at Kiss, an inspiration, or a particular album, something like that?
You know, I would just looked for different pictures of the band that I thought went well together, and you know definitely I was looking for like earlier, like late '70s stuff. But yeah, I just found pictures that I liked and thought would go well together and just put them together.
That's pretty awesome. And I see you've also done some really, really cool paintings. There's one of Prince, and I guess you must have done one around the time Pee Wee Herman passed away in the summer, where he's kind of, I can't remember if he's holding up a cross or looking up to the heavens, but where do you take your inspiration? Is it just kind of whatever comes to you at the time?
It's crazy because I started that piece before he passed,
Wow.
and yeah, I was really bummed about that. So that gave me a fire to finish it though, because like I said, I only do stuff when I'm in the mood, So some stuff sits, like Anthony's stuff sat for a while just to give me fresh eyes and look at it, give it some time to sit. Because you see other stuff when you're looking at constantly painting it, and you need to walk away from it sometimes to see what you want to do next.
Yeah. It's pretty great though. Really impressive stuff, man. It's
Thank you.
nice to see that, despite your history with Fight, you got this other budding career, and it is tied back into the music scene, into metal, and it's, with the artistry and all the guys you've inked and now painting for. Really, really cool, man. So congratulations on that part of your career. So hey, we wanted to get into talk about the back days of Fight. And listen, we all should celebrate it because it was recently the 30th anniversary of the War of War albums. I got to tell you, JJ, I mean, that was a really cool period of time for me because, just coming off of like my first experiences of Judas Priest, being a teenager, I didn't really get to see the heyday of the 80s era. I'm 53 now. So, I only cut my teeth around the time of Ram It Down and then when Painkiller came out. So, it's no secret Rob talks about the experience. I mean, he was, in a sense, like Painkiller was a rebound album, I think. They came out of the 80s period where their image was maybe a little bit on a decline after Turbo, and they put together this, killer album. Scott Travis is in there. And again, he documents it in his book that he admits, like, in a sense, he probably made a mistake walking away from the band. But I'm just curious, like, how did the whole evolution of the band start? How did you get the call? How did the band get put together?
Well, Rob, Rob had talked about wanting to do like just a side project, from Priest, just for fun. And he had seen my band play, and he liked what me and my guitar player were doing, me and Brian Tills. And and it all started out as a side project, but then from what I remember, the Priest guys weren't happy about that. And so, a lot of faxes went back and forth, and that's when he ended up having to walk away from Priest, which was sad,
Wow. So you're thinking that it was really just because he was trying to dabble in maybe doing a little side project that kind of rubbed the guys the wrong way?
Yeah. Yeah. Because it was only supposed to be, just something on the side for fun for him. He had no desire to leave Priest, but stuff happens and feelings get hurt or whatever, whatever.
Yeah, it's crazy because
people are sensitive.
Yeah, and I remember, I think they were coming off that horrible incident with the Reno kids, with the kids that committed suicide, and they were going through that court thing.
Right. Oh yeah, that was crazy. Yeah,
right, there was a lot of tensions probably just around everything, and maybe Rob just wanted to, kind of step away and say, I want to do something and really get aggressive, because I think the track Light Comes Out of Black, that was, I can't remember, it was featured on a movie soundtrack initially, and I think he cut that with the Pantera guys first, which may have been what prompted him to get together his own band, which got you guys involved, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah, that was on the Buffy the Vampire Slayer soundtrack. Yeah, that was a good tune.
Yeah. So how does the band come together, right? Because it's you, he brings Scott Travis over. You had Brian Tills, as you said, and then of course there's Russ Parrish, who we know now as Satchel from Steel Panther, right?
Yeah,
and it's kind of funny. I've run into Satchel a few times seeing Steel Panther. They're a great band, but it's kind of funny when you bring up and you're like, man, I was a big fan of that Fight era. He kind of just chuckles behind the makeup. But how did you guys all get put together? How did it all start?
I'm not sure. Rob knew Paul Gilbert, and Russ was living with Paul Gilbert at the time, and we flew over there and met him, and I think he might have sent in something to Rob's management or whatever, or maybe Paul mentioned Russ to Rob, and he just seemed like the right fit.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. So when actually did you guys like form a unit and like talk a little about, before we actually get into the album itself, like talk about like the whole recording, getting together, writing and rehearsing? Like how did that whole experience go down, and when did it happen and where? We got together in Phoenix at a studio in Phoenix there. I
I believe it was right off of Camelback, like 16th Street. And Rob had brought in demos that he had made up at his house. And we would go through the tapes and pick out ideas and like run through some stuff. Just all of us there in the studio, just going through stuff and figuring out what was working.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's crazy. I just found a box that had been packed away, and there's a lot of that early stuff on some of those tapes.
Oh, like actually like rehearsals and demos of the
Yeah,
recordings and things of that.
yeah,
Wow. Wow.
yeah. I've found a whole gaggle of crazy tapes.
Wow, that's pretty awesome. That's pretty awesome. Anything, I don't know if you've listened to him, but is there anything on there that maybe was in the form of a song that didn't make it? Because I do know there were some demos that were released and put out as sort of a fight remix later on. But is there other stuff on there too?
Oh yeah, I got all the good stuff.
Oh man, what's on it?
All the good stuff was hidden. Yeah.
Yeah.
I got the goods.
Yeah. Well, how would you describe this stuff, or what would you say it's like?
Well, there's just like a lot of stuff like where the lyrics are different, different choruses. And I mean there's a bunch of other songs on there that we didn't even never recorded neither. That I don't think Rob has a copy of any of it neither. So I was actually thinking about sending some of it to him so he could, check it out.
Yeah, I was just going to say that. Does this stuff it exists on some cassettes or CDs of yours, but of course, you always think it, since it is the 30th anniversary, it would be really nice to put a nice anniversary box set together, a package. Yeah, maybe give Rob's been busy, let's be honest. He just came off Power Trip this weekend, and they announced the new album, which will be released in March, Invincible Shield. So I mean, just getting off track here a little bit, but are you still in touch with Rob on a regular basis?
No, I see him when they roll through town, but I don't talk to him regularly. No.
Yeah, that would be good if you could get him down to your reunion shows in a few weeks, right? Get him down there, do a few fight classics on stage.
He might show up. You never know.
Yeah.
He's still down there, so he might pop in and say hey.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. That's awesome.
I know. Anthony's flying down for it. There's people flying in from Hawaii for it. So who knows going to show up.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, JG, I remember that period well, because the album came out, I guess it was summer or fall of 1993. I went to a bunch of the shows, and we'll talk about the live setting first, but let's get into the album, right? Like, you know what? You guys did 2 albums. You did War of Words, and then, came out a year later or so with Small Deadly Space. But I think War of Words is the album that most fans will remember from that era. It was just like the album itself. It was the iconic cover of just, black and white and a bunch of words and, and really, really heavy, aggressive material. So, let's talk about like the album art. Like, what was this all about? Was this like just Rob's vision to just go simple?
I'm not sure. I know when they came up with the logo, they wanted something to look strong. And when we recorded the album, we recorded it in Amsterdam, and the management wanted to get us away from everybody. So, we'd just be together working on stuff, recording and not have any distractions. I don't know why they changed like the logo and stuff on the second album. I don't know what the deal with that was. I liked the original look myself.
Yeah, this was really powerful because it was a statement, right? You had the G was almost like a lightning bolt, and it came down. It was a bold, simple logo. I mean, all the words that were probably in the title track were contained on the album cover, and it just popped. I mean, the merchandise was great, the posters, everything down to the black and the look of the band. You guys were in, shorts, black t-shirts. It was like a no frills band. And, seeing like you guys up there on stage with Rob, I mean, this is the first time for a lot of people that saw Rob in that setting, right? He's up there, right. He's like in his like sound check clothes, probably not in his leather gear.
Right.
Right.
That, and in a smaller setting, and, little smaller clubs, couple thousand.
Yeah. I mean, I'll never forget, and I want to talk to you about getting your impression of the album. But I mean, the album opens with Into the Pit, but perhaps maybe, we were all exposed to Fight on MTV. And I think, Headbangers Ball was probably on its way out around then, but Nailed to the Gun was played. And I always remember it was never played at the right time. It was not in the beginning when they were still playing the 80s bands. And they always shoved it in at the back end around somewhere around 1:30 a.m. Eastern time because it was still a little too heavy for them. But that was like the first introduction of Fight to the mainstream audience. And that's a fast, heavy track, with the drums kicking in. But then when you go and grab the album, Into the Pit, I mean, it's just that growling sound in the beginning. And I think if I remember right, JJ, you were the guy that when they came out on stage, you were the guy that went into the motherfucking pit.
That was me.
So talk about those couple of tracks.
Yeah, I did all the growly vocals, which, I didn't even know I was going to do. They just kind of threw it on me in the studio like, hey, do this part, do that part. Yeah, that was a cool intro. Always loved coming out to that all, down about 3 feet high, how I play my bass where my jack is always breaking off on the stage because I play it so low. I think my tech talked about putting a wheel on the bottom of my bass so it quit breaking stuff.
Yeah, you're right. You did have. You kept that thing really, really low, and I think your right hand was always almost like touching the floor, and you're almost in like a squatting position, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah, I mean, just Into the Pit, Nailed to the Gun. I mean, the video too. Like, talk about the video for Nailed to the Gun. Like, where was that shot? What was that like?
That was shot in downtown Phoenix. We actually did Nailed to the Into the Pit, and then I think it was or was it Nailed to the Gun? I don't know. 2 of them we shot back to back. It was one of the dudes that was doing Ozzy's videos, and we shot the one day, and then shot Little Crazy the next day, and man, we shot all this video footage for Little Crazy, and everything got scrapped. Like, it was so crazy. We had all these actors and actresses and like all this crazy shit going on, and they dumped all of it. It was so crazy.
Well, and that was right. Nailed to the Gun was the song that got the band on the map and exposed, but A Little Crazy was like, I guess you could call it its single. It had that kind of bluesy, jazzy little guitar to come in. And then, it did get some airplay. It became kind of the single. So I could imagine you're right. It was probably something that they could have built a little bit more of a traditional video, a storyline around. Wow.
Yeah. Yeah. Who knows with all those executive decisions, I just, you sit and scratch your head at some of them.
Yeah.
But
yeah, it was also a weird time too at that time. That was like the 80 or 93, 94. The budgets were getting cut and that kind of thing.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Now, a song like, because I'm actually looking at my hard copy CD here. Well, you can't see it here with the black light, but I still own the original CD. It was funny. I pulled this one out after a lot of years and must have met you guys somewhere and you signed it, but it's like black marker over the black album. So you can't really see much, but, yeah, like, then you go into the song Life in Black and it's like bluesy, like almost Sabbathy bluesy. And that was like a whole nother one where like, you got these like this thrash song and then a fast paced metal song. Now you got like a blues song. But talk about Life in Black.
Uh, I mean, I don't know. What do you have me say about it? I don't know. I just enjoyed playing it.
Yeah, yeah, it was a good one because it did change the pace of the material out, right? Because you had a lot of like heavy ones with pounding drums. I mean, I think like a song like Immortal Sin or
Yeah, yeah, there was a good mixture, you know.
yeah,
It kind of, went up and down on, it took you on a ride, where it wasn't all the same stuff through the whole thing, which was nice. You had a little bit of groove through there, but and then it built it back up, just like with the show.
yeah.
We get you pumping and then slow you down a little bit, and then get you pumped back up and slow you down.
Yeah, you're right. Because, you're looking at the track order on War Words, you have Life in Black, then it goes into Immortal Sin, which had like the pounding drums in the beginning. And then you had the title track, and that title track kind of had a weird vibe to it, a little Arabic or something behind it. And, I just remember Rob going off in the middle of the song. I couldn't even possibly repeat the words he was saying, but he just seemed really pissed off at, I don't know if it was just society or the institution of things, but just like he was like trying to make a statement about his view on mankind. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then you had like a song like Laid to Rest, which again, that was a little bit more chilled. It had like a little bit more of a laid back vibe. And then a song like For All Eternity, it was almost like, bad use of the word ballad, but it was kind of like had a slow song, right?
Oh yeah. It was definitely the ballad out of them.
Yeah, yeah. And what are your memories about some of these other songs? Because I think like the back end of the album, like Contortion, Kill It, Vicious, like these were the ones, man. Like those were heavy in your face. I do remember you had a big a part in singing some of the songs around Contortion, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah. I sing some of the second like line to Rob singing the money sucking greed, all these mouths to feed.
Yep.
Shoot it through the brain, selfish and insane.
Yeah, I can remember like it was yesterday, JG, seeing you up on stage, and Rob had his head, he was always do this thing, and he would put the gun to his head like this, and I think I remember you saying, "Money sucking greed, let's smoke weed," and you would do this big.
Oh yeah, yeah, oh yeah, and then yeah, people would always throw joints up there. Then
Okay.
Yeah, that was funny.
Yeah.
Fun stuff. It was a good time.
Yeah.
A lot of it's a blur, but it was a good time. It was nice finding all these videos that I did, because you see the videos and then you remember a little bit more about stuff, because man, it just seems like it was another lifetime almost. It's been a while.
I always say that this is one of those albums that like it definitely has held up over time. We have a show on our Metal Mayhem platform. We call it the History of Heavy Metal, where we take a particular year and we go through all the top 25, 30 albums, or, and this one was like unanimously in the top 5 of that year because A, the material's strong, and, B, like the sound quality and the tone on the album is really, it's great 30 years later.
Yeah. What did you think about the remaster release of that?
Yeah, I tend to like to stay with the originals, to be honest. It's
I hated it.
Okay. Well, tell us about that. Why so?
I don't know what the hell they did to it, but it didn't even sound like the same album.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, I don't know. Executive decisions again. I don't know what was going on with that. Like, I definitely like the original better.
Because it was in your face and it had a good strong miss. I mean, you didn't even like you could put that CD in your car still today. You didn't need to really crank the volume up. It was loud and in your face right there. That was to me a mix you don't have to touch, right?
No, yeah, I agree. Like it was good the way it was. So I don't know why they would go in and mess with it, you know,
Yeah.
because it seemed like they changed stuff. Like some of the vocals were different. So it sounded like some of the guitars were different. Like, I mean, it seemed like they messed with all kinds of stuff with it. And then the mix wasn't as good.
Yeah. And what about the
I don't
release
know.
when they put the demos out too, right? Then they had a release that was the songs from the album, then with additional demos.
I guess I don't, I don't, the K5, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I see. I don't even know if I've listened to that.
That one came out. I don't remember exactly when that came out. It kind of, I think, came out well after the band may have been over already. And it was kind of like those times when, when bands released albums of unreleased material or whatever, like it was almost like the novelty was gone and you would
Right.
grab it to put it in your collection, but
Yeah.
it didn't have the same moment of time like it was in there. But I do remember a song like Jesus Saves, right? I think that was kind of buried on the War Awards album. At the end when it faded out, you had to have that thing like where 2 minutes went by and it was blank, and then all of a sudden that one came in at the end. But I don't even really, to be honest, have a recollection of these demos. Do you have any recollection of these songs on here?
No. Let me see. So, so it's all the like same stuff. Oh, yeah. Oh, Dead Man Talk. Okay. The Beast in Eyes is what?
Yeah,
I don't
Beast and
know.
Eyes,
Beast in
Down, Dead
Eyes.
Man Talk, Forbidden,
Yeah.
and Now You Die look like all the additional tracks that were put on this.
Yeah. Yeah, I got some of those, like some of those versions too on some of those tapes. Some of those. And yeah, I don't know, I don't know. I don't know why they released that.
Yeah. But listen, the bottom line is the material is strong. So
Oh
um,
yeah.
now talk about getting on the road, right? Because this is where I think the band shined. And again, I saw you guys. I could take you down my personal history. I think I saw 5 or 6 shows on this tour, but it was like you guys did pretty much the whole album. But then you were also playing like a couple of Priest deep tracks, and then you were doing some Sabbath materials. Like, how did the Sabbath stuff come into the set list?
Uh, we just thought it'd be a cool kind of thing to just kind of throw in there. I actually got like I got a copy on one of those tapes I got is a a copy of a live show from the board, and those Sabbath tunes are on there, and so are those Priest tunes. I got copies of those,
Yeah.
and yeah, they sound good.
So I remember too,
They
if
were fun to play.
oh my god, and I think it was a nice diverse way of breaking away from the traditional Priest tracks because Rob probably wanted to do different material. They didn't want to just do a lot of Priest songs and throw in 3 new ones. It was quite the opposite, right? It was like almost the whole album, and then he would go back and you would maybe play. I think it was Bloodstone and Green Manalishi and maybe there was one other one that you guys were doing, but the Sabbath stuff too. He was
Hell
toying, I
Bent
think,
for
at the
Leather.
Hellbent for Leather, right?
Yeah,
Freewheel Burning was another one that was played
yeah.
live. But the Sabbath stuff too, I believe Rob was he was communicating a lot with Tony Iommi around that period. And I know there was like this was like almost like at the beginning of the internet, but there was rumors they were actually going to get together and do like a Sabbath album. Because he
Well,
had come off those Costa Mesa shows, right?
yeah, I was just going to talk about those.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, because I was out there. We went out there for that when Rob, when when Dio wouldn't open up for Ozzy, uh, when Ozzy and Sabbath and Sepultura played out there. So they asked Rob to do the whole Black Sabbath set before they came out and did the reunion. And maybe that's what kind of spurred on the us doing the couple Black Sabbath tunes
Now
out on the road.
at that time was Fight already together? I can't make the timeline. Were you guys already together when he got that call?
Yeah, we were together, uh, but I don't think the album was out yet. I think we were working on it, and then we figured, what the heck, we'd go over and watch them do the Sabbath set. which was really cool.
Yeah. Yeah. So you guys and the whole band was out there for those two shows?
Yep.
Yeah. I have bootleg cassettes of those. Those were, I
And
mean,
I'd like to see, I know somebody's got some video of that. I'd like to see the video of that.
I wouldn't be surprised if there's stuff out there on YouTube for it. But I mean,
Yeah,
there's some good audio stuff because again, that was another time. I think Tony and Geezer, they said, you know what, we jam out a lot of these songs in the sound checks that we don't get a chance to play live, because when they were obviously with Ozzy couldn't sing them, but Ronnie had a certain tracks that he would do. He would do an Iron Man War Pigs and the Black Sabbath song, but he didn't go deep into the archives. And that was probably another thing that fueled you guys doing those tracks on the road. So
yeah.
talk a little bit about the touring of Fight. You guys were out there. I mean, every little club in America, probably. Did you get overseas in different places like that?
Oh yeah. Yeah. We did Europe, we did Japan, we did Australia, we did Argentina, Brazil. We got around.
And what was touring like for you? I mean, was this like your first time playing in like a big production tour where you guys were, out on the road for 6 months straight?
Oh yeah, yeah. It was my first time on a big tour, and yeah, it was going from playing little clubs and then getting the tour bus and having everybody get your stuff ready. Like that's that's definitely a change of scenery, and being, I think I was what, 20, 21 at the time. Uh, you know, it was an exciting time. I was a kid.
Yeah, I can imagine. It actually technically underage still.
Yeah. And and getting to see the world, I think that was one of my favorite parts. As soon as we get to the city, I'd throw my shit down and I would go out and look at the city. Everybody else is kicking back, relaxing, and I'm going to the zoo, to whatever. I was running all over the place. They would always ask me, "So what's around here?" And I'd be like, "Oh, you got this, you got that."
And what was it? Was it like did Rob ever take any trips out there doing anything fun with you? Like you say, go to the zoo or
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
do hiking trips or something?
Yeah, yeah. We went to one of the zoos. He went to one of the zoos in Europe with us, and then we went whitewater rafting down in Australia, bungee jumping. Yeah, he would get out here and there.
Yeah, that's pretty awesome. And you guys did. I mean, I remember it well because you started the tour. I was at the first show you did in Long Island in it was November of '93 in Huntington. Then you came through Jersey. There were some memorable shows. I know the Jersey show, Sebastian Bach came up and jumped on stage with you guys. I don't know if you remember that one.
Oh yeah. Anytime we rolled through that area, he would always come up and sing with us.
Yeah. Yeah.
Matter of fact, I remember when his wife was in labor and he's up on stage with us, and then runs, gets off stage and goes straight to the hospital to have his kid, which he ended up naming after Rob. Yeah, it was crazy.
I didn't know that. What's his son's name?
I don't know. I know it's something Robert or something.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, or Halford or something weird. But yeah, it was crazy that his wife's in labor. Meanwhile, he's up on stage with us, rocking out.
Wow. Wow. Yeah. And then, like you guys had, I mean, you came through headlining on your own. And I thought one of the cool shows or the legs of the tour when you guys were out there with Anthrax. And I think it was when they maybe had just put out Sound of White Noise, or maybe it was the second album, but you did some co-headlining with those guys too, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. Those are some fun shows.
Yeah. Any jamming with Johnny Bush or the guys from Anthrax and Soundchecks? Anything fun there?
Just hanging out with those guys. All those guys are really cool. And I've loved Anthrax, since I was a kid. Any metalhead does.
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, it was just an honor just to be out on the road with him, hanging out with him.
Yeah. And what about I'm just curious because again, I only remember seeing you guys in the clubs, but did you guys end up at the time when you did go over, let's say, to different countries, get on bigger bills like festival shows? I know there's a lot of great pictures out there. You sharing some big stages. Were these with bigger package bills or the typical European festivals?
No, there wasn't really a whole lot of metal festivals back then, not like now, you know. We did do some dates with Metallica in the States. That was when we were recording the second album, and we would just fly out on the weekends and do the weekend shows with them, and then fly back to the studio in Phoenix.
Mm.
And that was probably the biggest shows we did was with them. Them, Candlebox, and Suicidal Tendencies.
Okay. How did those big crowds go over for you guys?
Good, real good. Uh, got really good response and had a good time. Uh, and it's definitely different playing on that big of a stage in front of that many people. I just found some video of that too, playing with Metallica in Las Vegas. And yeah, I was glad I found that because I didn't even know I had it. And seeing that, it was really cool.
That's some pretty cool stuff. You are the guy that has the archives, I must say. You definitely got to get on speed dial with Rob. But also I remember too around that time, Russ had left the band, right?
Yeah,
And you got a guy named what was his name? The next guy, Mark Chauncey.
yeah, Mark Chauncey.
Okay, how did he come in, and where did he come in from?
He came in from Minnesota. Uh, I think Robin and the manager were going through tapes, you know, seeing who they thought would fit. Uh, and there was another dude before Mark, uh, John Lowerly or something, that did like a couple shows with us. But then we got Mark.
Yeah, and just on a personal note, like JJ, like you were saying, hey, you were only 20 years old. You're seeing the world now and playing in this awesome heavy metal band with an icon. But how was Rob stepping into a different environment, coming off the big production, the airplanes, and fine catering and that kind of thing? Because I think he was sober by this point in time too. So how was Rob's lifestyle change?
I mean, I'm sure it had to be a pretty big change for him, to go from Priest to us, and going into small clubs. But he said he liked it, uh, having it more personal, and people up closer. Uh, but I imagine that's quite a big change,
Yeah.
you know. Uh, I know, I know for me, going from Fight and then going to some other bands, it's a pretty big change, you
Yeah.
know. Uh, but you do what you love, if you love it, you do it, and you do it with a smile and enjoy it while you have it.
Absolutely. We didn't get a chance to really talk about Small Deadly Space, but the touring cycle ends for War Words. What happens? Is it just the typical thing? All right, guys, you get 2 months off, you go home, rest up, and now we're back in the studio. Like, how did that whole thing to come together with Small Deadly Space?
Uh, got off the road, and then yeah, then we got the studio down in Phoenix, and got together, and I think Brian had already had some ideas like put together for a few of those songs, uh, that he had just wrote on whatever time he had down. He had been writing those.
What was your impressions? Because I mean, I do like this album a lot. It in a sense, it's almost even heavier. It gets darker. It's a little trippy on certain times. I mean, then a song like "Blowout in the Radio Room" was like, wow, that took you in a whole nother direction. Rob was super melodic on this. Like, what were your impressions of the songs on this album?
Yeah, that blowout in the radio room almost, I don't know, reminds me of like a STP vibe or something
Yeah,
weird. Uh, you know, to tell you the truth, like I was kind of in my own world. Like I was actually working on the S.I.L stuff. So I wasn't real present. I was working on other like dark electronic-y stuff too at the time,
yep,
which I think is what spurred Rob on to do like the remixes and whatnot.
yeah, and even I always remember too the title track. The title track's heavy, but I almost remembered that one. The main riff was very it was almost like Led Zeppelin's The Ocean. It just done in a heavy metal style.
Right. Yeah, it was that album was definitely like a different, a different beast versus the first one. Uh, you know, I think, we wanted to try to move in it, see where it progressed with Mark in the band and whatnot. Uh, I think they mixed it kind of light, but that's
Yeah.
neither here nor there.
Yeah, and then
It's
again, you
still a good
just
album.
it is a good album. You guys got right back out there the next summer and toured again. I remember seeing you down in Philadelphia at the Trocadero, and that was when I think I got a pick and I met Rob for the first time and that kind of thing. He signed a ticket stub, but ultimately, like the band didn't last, and it was such a shame for the fans like me that really loved the band and loved the albums. Like, I know Rob moved on, like you mentioned. If he was starting to dabble in with a little electronica, he came out a couple years later with the album with the
Yeah.
band too. So
Yeah.
what ultimately happened with Fight?
You know, I bet he was done dealing with me at the time. You know, 21, 22, like a train wreck. I was doing pretty much anything you would put in front of me. Like we were flying from Japan to Australia. They made the mistake of upgrading me to first class, the airline. Dude, I kept, dang, give me another drink. Dang, give me another drink. I puked all over first class. Like they're landing the plane. My feet are hanging out of the bathroom. I'm covered in puke. I can't find my passport. Rob sober. Me being sober now, looking back, there's no way I could have dealt with me. Like a sober me couldn't have dealt with some kid like that. So I'm surprised Rob put up with me as long as he did because, you know, I don't know. I was a butthole, you know. But that's what happens when you throw a kid in, out on tour. There's no easing into it, and that just fueled the drinking and smoking and whatever. Uh,
Well,
but
but
I don't regret nothing. It
yeah,
it was just that time, in my life. But I just don't know how Rob put up with me. I really don't.
I mean, well, I'm assuming all you guys were probably in the same age range, probably, right? Like early 20s or so, right? Maybe except
Yeah,
for Scott,
except
right?
for
So,
Scott. Yeah,
but it's probably not just you partying, but everybody else too. But well, it's a funny story. At least you're owning your responsibility on that flight back, and you can look back
oh
at
yeah,
it and say, "What was I thinking?" But I did it, and I got to deal with it. And you say you're sorry, and I'm sure you and Rob are cool 30 years later, right?
oh yeah, yeah. You know, I you can't tell somebody to get sober. They get sober when they're ready. You
Yeah.
know, you can't make anybody do anything. So, you know, he just let me be me. He's a lot stronger dude than me. There's no way I would have put up with me.
Yeah. That's funny. Well, I'm sure there was a lot more to it than just your, raising hell in your 20s, but it was the changing times and that kind of thing. And ultimately led him back to a solo career. And again, we talk about the fight material standing up over time. I mean, when he put the album out, Resurrection, and I think it was 2000, and he got back out on tour, I'll never forget it. It was Maiden, Queensryche, and Halford opening up at Madison Square Garden. The album wasn't even out, and they played a show at the Garden. And they played, I remember the first two songs off of Resurrection, but then they did Into the Pit and Nailed to the Gun right after that. So he was still in that zone of loving that material even through his next phase of his solo career.
Right. Yeah. Well, that's good.
So now, when the band ends, here we are 30 years later. I mean, it's the obvious question I would ask is, do you still speak to your bandmates? Have you guys ever gotten together and jammed out some of these songs? And has there ever been a conversation with Rob to say, hey, maybe we should do a string of 20 dates to celebrate this great music?
Rob has talked about, us getting back together, and, and I talked to Russ, I talked to Scott, I talked to Brian, but who knows? He has so much going on. I don't know if he has time for it, but he's definitely said that he'd been thinking about it, and it's, I guess, it'll happen when it's supposed to happen, if it's supposed to happen.
Right. Well, it sounds like you're the guy with the keys to all the archive footage and all the good demos and all the live tracks and the soundboard. So, man, you better safe lock that stuff in your basement, buddy.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I'm, going through all of it. I'm making copies of it now because I'm surprised it's survived this long with all my moves and all my partying back then. Like, I'm surprised I have that stuff.
Yeah. That stuff holds up over time.
Very, very grateful, And I know I still got another box of videos somewhere, like of in Amsterdam in the studio. I know I got videos of that and a bunch of other stuff too. I just got to find it. Got a lot of stuff.
That's it. Hey, listen, it's the metal enthusiast and the musician. Like I'm a collector too. I got bootleg cassettes, posters up all over the wall, autographs everywhere, photos. And it's like, that's from the stuff back in the day where there weren't phones and everything was a printout in boxes. I mean, I unearthed getting set up for the interview to talk to you. I unearthed the photos from from an in-store session that happened in Jersey at that time. And I remember, and it was funny, there was a cassette linked to the in-store. And I took it out, and I actually was having a conversation with you guys as I was walking the line. It was funny, and I said, "Oh my God, like what actually happened there?" I was asking Rob questions about all kinds of stuff, and Scott Travis comes on, and he did a phone recording thing for my my parents' house at that time, and it's awesome to have that forever to say, this is Rob Halford from Flight. And if you're looking for Lance, he's not home right now. So leave a scream for him at the message.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, they got that one. And unearthing these photos. And JJ, I think that's you up in the corner of that photo, correct?
Let me see. Oh, yeah, that's me. Yeah, next to Rob.
Yep.
So that was so young.
Look Jersey, man. This was, and you guys did a show at a place called Studio One in Newark that night. This actually is not too far from where I live right now in Totowa, New Jersey. It's, of course, a long gone CD shop. It's, I think, a sushi joint, and there's a bagel place next door, so it doesn't exist. But again, we have the photos and we have the memories, man. That's the most important thing. So, JJ, this has been a pleasure hearing all about your current activities and everything going on with you. And, of course, going back in past and talking all about the fight days. So where can our fans and listeners find all about JJ Brown and S.I.L. and anything else you might have?
My Facebook is Facebook at Rev JJ, REVJAY, like Reverend JJ. And that's also with Instagram and all that stuff too. And then, the Satanic Industries Limited, we just released that album on all the streaming sites, so you can finally get that after all these years. And also, you can check for a link maybe down below, and we might have a Halloween special for you guys to check out. So check that also.
That's awesome, JJ. It's been a pleasure. And for our listeners, we welcome you and invite you to check out our YouTube channel where all this great material and conversation will be out there. So again, JJ, best of luck with the shows. Happy Halloween. And we will talk to you again down the line. Keep it heavy.
Always.
Metal for Life.
Thank you for listening to Metal Mayhem ROC. Check out our website at metalmayhemroc.com for information on podcasts, archives, links to all our live radio shows, and all sorts of info. Please like, follow, and share with everyone, even your non-metal friends. And always remember to keep it heavy.